So first off, how'd you get into knitting? The 5-second version.
The 5-second version. I started knitting because one of my coworkers was a knitter, and she wanted me to start knitting with her. And I actually had never knit. I used to crochet squares for my grandmother. She was kind of child labor. She would have us.
Always with the grandmas. Mine made booties and cross stitch. So.
Yeah. She would have us make squares that she would sew together into blankets and give away to people.
Okay.
And so I never could get knitting. I couldn't get the hang of it because it was English style. And
you pick?
I found a video.
I'm a picker.
And that's how I started knitting. And
how many years ago was that?
This was about 15 years ago, actually. Okay. This was a while ago. Yeah. And then, knitting led to expensive yarn.
So how did you figure out that the craft store acrylic was not actually yarn? Or I should say high-end. I didn't know there was high-end fancy yarn. I thought Michael's was the yarn shop until someone at Michael's said, you need to go to a yarn shop, because I couldn't figure out a knit stitch. And I walked in and they're like, we're not a yarn shop. And I'm like, you sell yarn. You are a yarn shop.
Yeah. Actually, again, back to my friend Kathy. Kathy was a lot older than me and had way more disposable income. So Kathy shopped at knitting boutiques.
Yes.
So
they're wallet jackers.
Yes. And Kathy had a lot of really nice yarn, and she would be knitting with this really nice stuff. And, I had, the
Lions brand acrylic.
Yes. And I was, I wanted to have the stuff Kathy had, and I could not afford at the time. It was a lot, like $15 a skein.
$15 a skein.
Yeah.
I can't wholesale for $15.
Right, yeah. And so I went to the store, to the boutique with Kathy one day, and there was a woman there who was selling her hand-spun yarn.
Okay.
And that was the slippery slope that led us to today.
Yes. I had the same experience. I walked into the yarn shop for a lesson and was so blown away by the yarn. I remember picking up Noro. Remember the first time you saw Noro and going,
yes.
And so that's why I wanted to learn to dye and spin, because I wanted to make Noro except without the twigs in it.
Yes.
And I wanted it to be soft and sparkly. And the knots. Oh my God. The knots that just jump to a whole other color. Yes. We still love you, Aisaku Noro.
Oh, very much. Very much.
I still buy Noro to this day. So what made you decide that you wanted to have a fiber company?
So as much as I love, when I can, buying other people's yarns and bats and fibers, there's what I like to spin. I don't find a lot of in the marketplace.
Right.
I love natural fibers, which is what
untreated, non-superwash, no acrylic. Yes.
Yes. And I love a lot of texture and like what you make, highly saturated colors.
And tweed.
Tweeds.
Gotta love the tweed made of silk.
Yes. I love tweeds.
So are you going to want to be doing roving, bats, fleece, yarn, hand spun, hand dyed? Like what's your focal point, and then the ring around that you want to offer?
So I would say my focal point would be bats. Okay. Highly textured, natural fibered bats. And then from there, I'd say you'd start like the center of my universe would be bats, and then rovings, and then maybe hand spun, and then yarns.
Yeah, like natural yarn. Maybe get a mill to do some milling for you.
Yes, that would.
You could probably piggyback on my orders because I work with a mill, and then you could just get like a bag or two instead of a 25-pound minimum order, which is 100
That would
skeins.
be awesome.
Yeah, we can make that work, especially because my ability to have Stacy here today as a scholarship student, and she's staying the weekend with me to learn how to dye and card and spin, and you're going to see that later in the video. Or earlier, I don't know. This could be a Tarantino movie, all out of order. We'll see, right? Jules is named for Jules Winfield.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And Beatrix for Beatrix Kiddo.
Oh, that's awesome. I was not as creative in naming my kids.
Well, I'm old, so I had a lot of time to think about if I had a kid, what I would want to name them. But they have very traditional middle names. Jules Oliver and Beatrix Charlotte. So those are super popular. In case they don't like their weird first name,
they can use
their middle name. Or just change it like I did. My name was spelled Nicholle on my birth certificate. And then I had the most unoriginal 80s middle name of all time, Marie. So I just got rid of my middle name, changed the spelling of Nicole back to what it should have been. And then my husband and I took a combined last name.
Oh, that's awesome.
My last name was Ross, and he was going to take my name. And his last name was Leidenfrost, which means suffering cold in German.
And so
I just went Ross, Leidenfrost, just Frost. So I changed my name before we got married, and then he took it. So on his Bundesrepublik Reisepass, it says he has a maiden name. So it's like, was Leidenfrost, now Frost, which is hilarious. But I don't. So if we ever get divorced, I get to keep it and he can't.
That's awesome. Whereas I, on the other hand, when I got married, never changed my last name.
So you had nothing to change.
Yeah. My mom claims that deep down I knew that was never going to.
Moms know.
Right.
Moms know. Yeah. I love this. So how did you get into the weird world of Instagram spinning and get turned on to where
my daughter got me into Instagram.
Okay.
When I first heard of Instagram, I thought it was the dumbest thing ever. I was like, you mean it's just pictures?
Yeah.
Yeah. And for the longest time,
I was like, it's just like Facebook. But...
Yeah. And that's exactly what I said. I was like, you mean it's like Facebook, but it's just pictures. No one says anything. It's just pictures. Like, what?
Yep.
And then I got on there and I started looking at the pictures and I was like, this is kind of actually awesome.
Yeah. I stopped the month I signed up for Instagram. I sold enough yarn that I never had to sell in a yarn shop again if I didn't want to.
And then you were hooked, yeah.
One of the yarn shops I sold to that now is no longer in business was like, every time we post frost yarn bats are here or frost yarn, skeins. I used to sell a lot of hand spun back in 2014. People would drive down from LA and it's all from Instagram. You have to get on there. It took a year for them to convince me. And then I finally did it. And I was like, holy shit. Because Facebook to this day is a dud. I could post something for $5 that's worth $5,000. No one will see it. No one will like it. No one will comment on it. And no one will buy it. I put it on Instagram and it's gone like that. So how do you think we can best serve? So I got to meet Stacy through Instagram. I put out the call. If you're local and you're a person of color and you want to learn this trade as business, seek me out. I will make you, you'll get a scholarship spot in my class, or if you can drive down here, you can actually stay with me for the weekend and we will do dyeing morning, noon, and night until we drop. So that came because in January, so it'll almost be a year. Do you remember when the whole thing went down?
I think it was about a year ago. Yeah,
where women of color people of color who knit, non-binary, we're talking about their really shit experiences going into yarn shops, which is, some of the women that we're talking about it are friends of mine behind the scenes. And I remember reading an account that was so heartbreaking. And it was like someone that not only do I really love, like I know well, and I had never heard that before. And I realized that this is not something that people feel like they're allowed to talk about.
Yeah.
Or like that, because I asked her behind, I was like, why did you never tell me that? And she said, it's like a downer.
It's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable to say, I don't feel comfortable here because I'm not being made comfortable here. And so I thought about it for about 6 months. And I was just like, what could I do that's not a white lady posting? I'm so outraged because that helps no one. It does nothing. And that's all I saw on my feed. How do I use my privilege, leverage my skills and abilities, my platform to positively impact other people? So at that month, so 11 months ago, I found every black dyer I could find. I sent my dye atlases. I sent fiber. I was like, anything you need from me, like, let me know. And started scholarshiping people behind the scenes. And then I kind of ran out of people that I could find. Or that I knew of, and I realized I would have to go public with it, which was really uncomfortable because it feels like virtue signaling and white savior, and just I feel comfortable doing it when no one knows about it, but talking about it even now just feels so bizarre. But the reason I'm doing this is because I can't find more people to put in the scholarship spots. We have like 30 waiting, 8 for the next 4 weeks. I have 8 people that are coming to stay with me or are scholarshiped into the class. There are also clients of mine who have paid the $300 to make a spot available because there was so much more desire than there was open spots. Because I'm giving 1 spot in every class in 2020 every class I teach to a person of color. And then I made that 2. And then I was like, well, I can also put weekends in where I'm not teaching, but it's like, there's more need than there is availability. So there's that, but then there's also, I want to make sure that at least I find people and I'm like, here's all the reference materials, here's the resources, here's where you buy, here's all my dye videos, like, let me know how I can help. You're in Arizona, like, we can't work together if you can't get out here, but I can help you behind the scenes. So that's sort of the point of doing this interview, talking with Stacy, and like her being public about like me helping her launch her business, because I don't want to have anything to do with being like the focal point. The point is that there's not a lot of diversity and representation in fiber arts. Like when you walk into a yarn store, how often do you see another person of color?
Not a lot.
And she lives in LA.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I live in an area where it is not like, primarily white. So, and I know a lot of people of color who are in the fiber arts, but when you go into these spaces, you don't see a lot of people that look like me. When I go on Instagram, I don't see a lot of people that look like me unless I'm following those hashtags specifically. But the larger accounts that are getting the larger followings and that are, the ones that are more representing this hobby, this industry, are not people that look like me.
Right.
And representation does matter. Even something like this, representation matters.
Right. I agree. I mean, when I walk into a yarn shop, I don't even know if I've ever had someone sitting next to me in a class. When I taught in New York, it was the first time I had a person of color in 11 years take my class. One time in 11 years. And I've been teaching that class since 2009. So 10 years, 11 years teaching, but 10 years with that specific class. So it's like, but there's a ton of people who are into the fiber arts or who are interested, but don't know how to get into it, or they don't know a person. They don't have a friend or a grandma or an auntie or someone. So it's like, let's change that. If we don't see, if 10% of our, population is African American, then 10% should be in the yarn shops, should be dyeing. Like, it shouldn't just be 3 yarn companies that I can think of off the top of my head that are women of color or people of color that dye. There should be like, where's the Mad Tosh of the fiber community that's BIPOC?
Yeah. And here's something I just thought of too. I suffer from mental illness. I know a lot
Both
of
of us do. Hi, neuroatypical.
Yes. And knitting, crocheting, fiber arts are something that can really help alleviate or minimize those symptoms, give you some
It's so
peace
healing.
and calm. But it's something that people of color don't feel is something we should be doing. And
even though you've been doing it historically.
Exactly. But
there's knitting in the tombs of Egypt.
Yes.
Which is North Africa.
But I get funny looks from my people when I am seen in public doing that. Black people don't knit. Comments like this.
Which of course is bullshit.
It's such bullshit. And if I can do even a little bit to normalize that among people of color.
And maybe bring more people into the fold.
Exactly.
We're like the drug dealer. The first hit's always free. You
know exactly.
What I mean? So, is there anything in closing that you want to say to your community to invite them in and make them feel welcome and wanted?
Just, when I entered this space, it was very much me venturing into some place that was uncomfortable. Like I said, this was 15 years ago. My friend Kathy, who first reintroduced me to the fiber arts, is not a person of color. So I was very much going out to something that was uncomfortable, and it was uncomfortable for me, but I did have someone who was bringing me out.
Right.
So if you're in the area and, like Nicole,
Los Angeles, Orange County, San Diego, Inland Empire, hi.
And you want to reach out to me, like Nicole has brought me in, if there's something I can do, I would be happy to do the same for someone else. I'm collecting resources myself right now, but I have time.
You have tons of skill.
Yeah.
Very, very technical spinner, which I love. Competent dyer, learning all the time. And there will be, by the way, I'm going to put a link below, but all the stuff we made this weekend is for sale. And that fiber that you're buying is directly going to her, and she will be purchasing her new drum carder.
Yes.
So
I'm
yeah,
very excited.
Well, there will be more to this video, but I just wanted to do a little interview because I've never done an interview on my channel before, introduce a new fiber artist to our community, and welcome your comments, welcome your feedback, and most importantly, your physical body into our space if you can ever get here. So bye.
Bye.